it might be trying. And so it's showing we're live now, so that's a plus. Although the screen isn't really showing here. Live. I'm just looking for the. I only see a dark screen though, saying you are live. It doesn't say. It's not showing the.
It's not picking up the camera.
Or the camera it doesn't have enough juice to get the camera on there. All right, so it shows that we're connected. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Before we get started with Midrash, though, Scripture says, "You'll eat and be satisfied, and you will bless Adonai your God for the good land He has given thee." So let's do that. Abba, we have eaten and we're satisfied. We thank you for the land. In Yeshua's name, we thank you. Amen. And we're Torah portion Ki-Tetze. When you go out, this is what we read today. Our first verse, Ki-Tetze, is the first two words on the top right. The Torah portion's name. And it translates to something like when you go out. And La Milchama is the next word, when you go out to war. Okay. So the question is, and they fill in where the Dos Equis are, how many mitzvot are within this Torah portion?
There was a lot.
There's a lot.
Again,
So some of them were the Torah of the beautiful captive, the Torah of the wayward and rebellious son, one of the least commandments, prohibitions against mixing, camp cleanliness, the Torah of camp cleanliness, not to muzzle a working ox, to pay your shoe, equal weights and measures, and to remember some of them. To remember to blot out the name. But so it's somewhere between 47 and 74.
I like A today.
You like it. We see it. He keeps doing C.
Yeah, every now and then he likes to say, "Oh, they're going to choose C," and they'll change it.
I don't think it's D.
It's my age. 47.
I think I'll go with you with B.
All right. So, ready? Be prepared to be disappointed. A is out.
Oh, it got me.
B is out.
Wow.
Oh, whoa.
Between 68 and 74. Oh, my God. There's
More
only
than
6
so more than 10% of all the mitzvot are within this Torah portion.
10%.
More than 10% because it's either 68 or 74. Right? And we're going to talk about line by line from the Hebrew. So anyway, 74 is the number. But before we go to any of the mitzvot, let's talk about upcoming holiday on the schedule, Yom Teruah or Rosh Hashanah. So on the top left, that is a screenshot from the Chabad website that shows this is the 22nd, 23rd, 24th Rosh Hashanah, or the night before Rosh Hashanah would be the 22nd. It has Rosh Hashanah on there twice. Why does it have Rosh Hashanah on there twice?
Depending on which day you can actually see when you're moon.
Not quite.
Oh, they celebrate it twice so that they make sure they don't miss it. Am I correct?
Yes, Rosh Hashanah is known in tradition as one long day, and it is celebrated over 2 days. And the reason it's celebrated over 2 days is in the exile, you wouldn't, there was not an internet when the fixed calendar came out.
Really?
There wasn't. No, there wasn't even. Well, there was smoke signals, but it wasn't very helpful because they were often were, the lighting of fires was often circumvented by hostile tribesmen doing other things. But anyway, so it's shown as on 2 days because outside of the land, it's celebrated on 2 days because of the unknown factor of when it is. Because as you know, Rosh Hashanah or Yom Teruah is the only holiday that is the first day of the month, and so it is the only day that day would be the first day of the month. Build to be and sight the moon on the 22nd. As you can see from the aids, even in Southern Africa, and let alone in Israel. So the on the far right hand side is, but it shows the moon visibility on the 23rd. So you see the little small crescent there in the bottom left hand corner. That shows, and the lines there are the visibility lines. So if it's below that kind of arcing line, it would not be visible high enough for long enough to be able to see it without optical aid. So according to this, it would be visible on the evening of the 23rd, but not on the evening of the 22nd, whether you're in Israel and not even in the United States. I mean, based on some months, the moon is not visible in Israel, but by the time a couple of hours elapse, I'd like to meet to see the moon for Rosh Hashanah. So given that we won't be able to see it on the 22nd, we're going to look to sight it on the 23rd of this month, and we'll meet in Elmer Thomas Park on the 23rd at about probably about 7 o'clock to look for the moon.
Is MacArthur not a good place to look anymore, or have they fenced that off?
I haven't been out that way for a while. I don't know.
Up on a hill, no instructions.
Is Elmer Thomas, is that the one where we met?
For bread and such.
On the 923.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to go through some of the mitzvah. This is not necessarily the complete list of them all, but starts chapter 21 with the Torah, the captive woman, and to not sell a captive woman to slavery, and don't enslave a captive woman. So there's a number of mitzvot that are all related to the same subject there. So you have 3 related to the Torah, the captive woman. So one is not enslave. We'll talk more about the mitzvot. And the rebellion, don't rebel against the order of your father or mother. We'll talk a little bit. As they are must hang those stoned for blasphemy or idolatry. And that is not really in the text itself of that. But so read 21, verse 22.
If someone has committed a capital crime, is to put to death, then hung on a tree. His body shall not remain all night on the tree, but you must bury him the same day, because a person who has been hanged has been cursed by God, so that you will not defile your land, which Adonai your God is giving you to inherit.
So it talks about stoning in that verse or not? It doesn't, does it? It talks about
doesn't.
Hanging, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't identify a particular, does it identify blasphemy or idolatry in that particular text?
No,
It does not.
just a capital crime.
Right. So they've interpreted it to mean, for blasphemy and idolatry, stoning is listed as the offense. But this is not necessarily, they're connecting it with those other 2 capital crimes, blasphemy or idolatry. But as we read in our portion, are there other capital crimes besides that?
Murder.
In our case, capital crime. But that would be beyond the blasphemy or idolatry. Don't leave the body of executed criminal hanging overnight. And of course, with Yeshua's execution as well, right? That was the reason for not leaving.
So they broke their legs, so they would die.
They die before the end.
Sun.
Yes. So that really wasn't related to getting it done before Shabbat, but it was done to so not letting it stay there overnight. But in a sense, it was because once at night sets, you wouldn't be able to remove the criminal from there because that would be considered work. Unaided. That is something specific. Well, the community at Qumran, would they assist a? They would not, because for the same reason they would not help a drowning man on Shabbat. Why is that? Why would they not throw a rope or a ladder to a drowning man on Shabbat?
They consider it work.
Consider it work, and they believe that is in other words, Yeshua talks about saving a life as being able to do on Shabbat, but the Qumran community was of the opinion that Shabbat was a commandment that outweighed saving a life, and the reasoning was you shouldn't have been out.
Shouldn't have been out swimming or
And the animal
rocks.
shouldn't have had anything on it, on Shabbat. So 22:5, women are not to wear a man's clothing or adornments. Next slide also see the reverse. Men are not to wear women's clothing or adornments.
I find it fascinating that was written, probably 4,000 years ago. And what are we dealing with today?
Mhm.
It's all, yes, it is what we're dealing with today.
Oh, it's not a new sin.
And I would say that you would likely get a bloody nose if you called a Scotsman wearing a kilt wearing a dress. So.
Although, for the Scots, women were not allowed to wear their kilt.
Women wear dresses because
They wore
kilt is man's wear.
But
Yeah.
technically, didn't men back then wear a long, I would consider it robe dress like?
Skirt, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They didn't wear pants, that's for sure. So they didn't have back.
often it was, you can kind of look at what's thought anyway. You kind of look at what Bedouins typically wear now as being something like what was worn centuries, millennia ago. What we call a man dress. But it's,
women dress like that too. So I always thought, how did they differentiate men's?
Well, it's the difference between basically a covering garment, a robe, and a dress. The dress is more form fit to the body shape. The man just basically
Was more square.
I know I made children's costumes for Christmas.
Uh-huh.
They were all the same. You just pink was for girls.
Yeah.
maybe a week or so. I've seen several ads come up, like on Facebook or YouTube, for a guy who's wearing basically a man-sized body towel, and it looks like a full covering robe, but it's basically a towel material, so you don't have to, so you can put that on when you get out of the shower, and not ever have to wear a towel around you or whatever. That's
Right.
Show them going to the beach, things like that too. Yeah, pretty cool. And okay, so the next two, 22 and 26, 22:7, those together kind of known as the least of the commandments.
I was wondering, I've heard that before.
Don't take the mother with the young, and release the mother bird before taking her nest. In other words, You can't, as part of the same idea of one's a positive and one's a negative commandment. It's positive to release the mother. You take the nest, i.e., you take the bait scene, the eggs, beast of the commandments. So, since you don't often all the Midrash, he took one of the eggs from that bird's nest. All right, 22:8, to guard around a flat roof, you don't fall off.
A railing.
A railing.
You still see a mock-up of that of older houses. They'll have like on the top or on a peak or something, they'll have like not a real fence nowadays, but a mock-up fence. Usually they're white.
In Israel, when I was there, we saw pretty much all the houses are flat roof, and they're used as another floor.
Mhm. Somewhere in the Bible talks about someone sleeping on the roof.
Yeah, something about, I saw a thing about, they were talking about, when I don't know if it's real or not, it was interesting, talking about volcanoes and stuff that happened in the Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about these things that happen where the water turns red from like geothermal activity. It makes the water red, the fish die, and then a gas comes, and it's happened in Africa, and like wiped people out that were sleeping on the ground, and they said that a lot of the firstborn sons would actually have a bed. The other ones slept on the roof. The little short beds you see like in the Pharaohs too. It's interesting anyway. The gas got them because it hovered. The theory.
Don't sow your vineyard with diverse species. What is that about?
Mixing.
So what happens when it mixes?
We talked about that a couple of years.
Lose your
It's
arrow.
very interesting what he's going to talk about right there.
Look at the text.
See, mine said forfeit, becomes forfeit. The crop.
Forfeit. The text says something a little bit different than that, right?
Well, the Hebrew word.
Yeah.
Is what
That's
is
22:9.
When I first saw that, I was like, why didn't we know?
So it says, do not sow your vineyard with different species, lest, then the next word is, often translated as it'll become forfeit or become defiled, is how it's often written.
Usually it says defiled.
Mhm.
And it says forfeited.
Mhm.
But the word is tikdash. Tikdash. It becomes not forfeit, not defiled, holy.
Holy.
Kadosh is the root word there. It becomes kadosh.
So you give,
It becomes not yours. It's owned by the who?
so it's planted with your grapes. Now your grapes are supposed to be the priests. Well, if you have something else growing with it, that goes to the priest too. You can't have any of it.
Yeah.
That brings
It
up.
all becomes owned by the priesthood. It becomes
Becomes
set apart.
holy and given to the
Set
priest.
apart.
Just talking about just grapes, just the vineyard,
Or the diverse.
or it says grain or vegetables.
Yeah, it's the whole. It's the
Well, it just says vineyard there, don't it?
well. It's
It's
the filled kernels of the seed that you plant and the produce of the vineyard.
Yeah.
So
it's grapes and then something else.
Yeah, whatever you're sowing your thing with diverse species.
Okay, I thought it had to do
So
with
this-
mixing of the seed, it doesn't.
It is. Don't do it. But if
Yeah.
it does happen, the crops become kadosh. They become
Yeah,
set
if it
apart. You got to give it.
Accidentally happen or on purpose or whatever, you still don't get it.
Right.
But now it doesn't.
And there's not a functioning priesthood,
Yeah.
Right. That's why.
so it'd be
No
hard
one to give
to
it to.
hard to carry that out.
I was wondering
You
about
can still-
that. I planted different types of okra and different things. And they cross sometimes.
I don't think it's talking about like I don't think
know. I don't
that's.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily the you can't plant okra and corn the same thing. I don't think that's what's
No.
necessarily.
Well, like I had two different types of okra. You've got two different. You know what I mean?
Probably it's still okra.
It's still okra. Yeah.
Yeah.
May not be the original area.
This is
Horses and
Yeah. So-
donkeys, you get a mule, you're not supposed to do that.
Yeah. Zonkey
The zonkies,
and the liger. And all
yeah,
that stuff. Yeah. We were talking about that last night.
I was showing you pictures of
The zonkey.
the neighbor that just had a little funky right behind me.
it would be interesting to know, I'm sure it's probably sterile.
Yeah, I never asked, I don't know, yeah. But I've heard that before.
Yeah, we could look it up and see what it is, and you can ask.
so 22:10 has a couple other mitzvot. Don't plow with a donkey and an ox together. So Paul even talks about that one, right? He refers to the same idea. They're not really.
This one's more specific, what's written up there.
And what is?
It says,
what is the
or not
reason?
less specific, it
Be
says
difficult
animals,
for one of the
two different animals.
Well, it seemed like it
One's
could be
stronger and
unequal,
faster.
yeah. So, I mean-
Specifically, it's ox and
Same.
donkey
Mhm.
is what it says here. What's the reason for that?
I don't think they would work super well together.
Putting a big burden on one of them.
Big burden on one of
Wearing
them
them
and
out.
probably.
Are their stride
your-
lengths the same or are they different?
No.
Kind of hard.
Yeah.
Your furrows will probably. Maybe that's-
Somebody might try to do it right.
Yeah, I can see that. The Torah of the defamer of the bride. This is specific, though. It's not just well. In this passage, in this part of it, this section is what is going on here? The defamer of the bride. He takes a woman. The linear says, and he fabricated against her trumped up charges. So in other words, he knew that he was making a false statement when he accused her of not being a virgin. And what is the
50,
He's stuck with her. He
50
can't
pieces of
divorce her.
gold.
yes, in terms of his price, he has to pay money and he's flogged.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He has to pay money and flog. And he has to stay with her.
He can't divorce her the rest of her life.
But he can sure make her life miserable.
You know, but she can too.
Well, and her parents can make it difficult probably for him too.
What about the cloth?
So the cloth shows basically the bleeding from the breaking.
And
of
in case
they
they ever
delivered
needed to prove it.
yeah. that they delivered what was promised.
I'm sorry, what about the verse that it says, do not wear a cloth woven of wool and linen? What
Oh,
was the
okay.
reason behind that one?
Well, that is one of the mitzvot that is listed as the kind that because God commanded, not because it made
There's no
necessarily
reason really
sense.
given,
Oh, okay,
And
we don't know why.
because I said to do it.
well, there are a number of reasons that are often given for it, theories,
Yeah.
but the Torah doesn't specify. It's just because
Oh.
God said to do it.
Not to do it.
But where is this sort of where does Shatnez doesn't count?
The priest.
Temple,
The temple, the priest,
I mean,
priestly garments.
not that, well, yeah,
And-
the temple and the
and-
Mishkan.
Yeah, yes, right. Mishkan, the parochet, the separation between the holy of holies and just the holy place was made of had wool and linen together, and the priestly garments the same way.
Yeah.
But
That was because God said to do it.
right,
Right, so it would be something.
It also had images of things that we're not supposed to have images of.
right, things in the heavenly realm.
Yeah.
So this is not talking about cotton and rayon.
No, specific.
It's specific to wool and linen. Why those two?
Represents the holy of holies, and we aren't to wear those.
Well, when you think about it, in Israel, when Israel was leaving the land, or leaving Egypt, going into the land, that was pretty much the choices of fabric. Okay, you have something of leather, you have something of flax, which is a plant based, right? Or linen comes from flax. And you have wool from sheep.
You didn't have a lot of cotton. Yeah.
Cotton wasn't available. Not really. You couldn't really weave those together anyway. So you could make a theory. It's and plant based.
But it doesn't really
But
say why.
That's a theory. Again, same thing as some people talk about the wavelength
Yeah.
of something or other. But
Of a
again,
fabric.
that's
I've heard one cancels out the other or
Mhm.
something.
Could be, but I mean, who am I to say no?
I don't know.
But it doesn't say why.
doesn't
Right.
say.
That's just theories.
As in all things the Torah, we do it because it's for our own good.
That's what it boils down to.
Okay, we talked about adultery and rape previously. This reads as, "Don't punish a betrothed woman who committed in the country. She's not held liable for that.
If he is in the city, though, if she didn't call out,
Right.
didn't scream for help.
But that would be different. That would be adultery, right? Even your betrothed woman, if she's unfaithful, commits adultery. It's not just. It's as if she's already married. This is the seducer. The seducer in the outside has to marry her, and I've read elsewhere that in practice he has to pay the bride price whether she agrees to marry him or not, because it's still her choice whether or not to marry this person who took advantage of her sexually. They still. Okay, so I do have a slide that talks about this. The person that's the mamzer is someone who is those are. I have a slide talking about it, but a mamzer is a product of a relationship that could never be tov, could never be a quote unquote kosher relationship. So it's not someone born out of wedlock, so to speak. it is like the product of incest or something like that. It would never be, could never be a quote unquote lawful relationship.
For the
No, because that could technically could be, like in Gomer and Hosea could marry a prostitute, and their children would be still be allowed in the synagogue, so to speak, or in the temple. But so, what does it mean by to not enter into the assembly of the Almighty? What did it mean when Israel was leaving Egypt? What is the assembly in that context? Same with a Moabite. What is not entering the assembly? I think it can only mean entering into the Mishkan. And so entering into the Mishkan was forbidden to those, essentially the holiest place on the planet. But it doesn't mean that in modern times, someone who fits in those categories couldn't attend a local synagogue. It's, in Los Angeles. It doesn't really, it's talking about the Mishkan, and probably by extension, you could say the temple, but that's only one place. And that's the assembly would be that place.
Okay, now, looking it up, and they're talking Jewish, it says prohibited from, it's a child born from a prohibited union in Jewish law, often defined as a child born to a Jewish mother, although other interpretations exist. The term carries connotations of being spoiled or corrupt, and is derived from the root meaning of alienate or stranger. They're restricted from marrying within the community of Israel and can only marry another manzer or convert, a manzerim.
So the commentary here says, contrary to popular misconception, a mamzer is not someone born out of wedlock. Rather, it is someone born of a union between a man and a woman whose marriage could never be valid, such as union between a brother and sister or other such forms of incest, or a married woman who bore another man's child. A mamzer and all this, his or her descendants, may never marry into the nation. They may, however, marry converts or other mamzerim. So in other words, the last part here about that marrying into and things, that's commentary, it's not Torah.
Okay.
The definition of mamzer, I think, is the word that we are looking at here. What's what does that really say? And the other part is more tradition than Torah.
And so what is the definition of mamzer?
Someone is not someone just born out of wedlock, but someone born from
Does that mean they wouldn't be able to go to be a part of?
kind of like that. They could still. I think that it doesn't. Trying to connect. There's a difference between Edom and the others. This is in 23:7 or 8. I think I might have the numbers wrong there. Edomite, your brother, Do not despise an Egyptian, or sojourner you were in his land. Children are born to them in the third generation may enter of their sins into the congregation. I think that, and maybe my view may not, my view is kind of shaded by Messianic things in terms of who is an Israelite. I think that an Ammonite or Moabite is kind of saying they can. Well, one view is when you read these things about Moabites and Ammonites that can't enter into the congregation, the traditional interpretation is talking about men who are Ammonites or.
If Rahab was in the line, part Moabitish
Well,
somewhere, and he would be allowed.
Well, think about it though. Go past Rahab, right?
Ruth.
Ruth.
Oh, yeah, right.
Ruth is
Even
Ruth
was
is
a Moab,
David's
that's
grandmother, right?
Yeah.
Ruth is David's grandmother, but Ruth is a woman.
Okay, so you're saying, that's why you're saying.
The traditional understanding is that it only
Okay.
applies to the
So
men.
that's how.
I would say that once
Yeah.
Once
how he got
Ruth-
around it.
said, your God is my God,
Your people are my people.
your people are my people, she's no longer a Moabitess,
Moabite.
she's an
Okay.
Israelite,
Gotcha.
That's beautiful.
That
she's a
makes sense.
convert. And so all those rules about Moabites and Ammonites don't apply to her because
Right.
she's
Same thing with us being grafted into
Yeah.
being Jewish.
Right.
Okay,
being
gotcha.
being part of Israel in a
Yeah.
larger sense. Yeah. 23, 10, 11, or 11, 12. A tameh or unclean person can't enter into the camp. Now, at evening, he washes with water and then is clean again, can enter into the camp. So there is a temporary keeping someone who is tameh, unclean. So you want to be tahor, which is clean, to enter into the camp.
So a soldier coming back from battle would have to be outside the camp
Yeah.
until he was clean.
Right. Verse 12, it will be toward evening. He shall wash himself in the water, and the setting of the sun, he may enter into the midst of the camp. Let me go ahead and page through to the next one. There should not be a prostitute, male or female, among the children of Israel. Rashi defines a prostitute as someone who constantly makes themselves available for sexual activity outside of marriage. I think we can also look at just the regular meaning of prostitute, but it does say both male and female. And so when we see the phrase, do not bring sacrifice out of the hire of a harlot or the price of a dog. Hire of a harlot will be the wages for prostitution. The price of a dog is understood to mean the price for male homosexual prostitution. The price of a dog.
Depends on what kind of dog. Some
That was
dogs
what
are
It's very expensive. And someone.
This is a
When it says do not bring sacrifices, meaning don't bring like a price, like you've used it for that.
can't
and then
you
give it
yeah,
to
right.
oh,
if you have money that's given to you for illicit things, like you can bring it to the temple and give it in
yeah.
Temples profiting from temple.
land, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Asherah trees were about, was idea as
That
you
was a way
can't.
for them.
Well, the prostitutes were basically working for the government, so to speak, working for the temple or the particular shrine that's being used there. Don't lend to your brother at interest.
Do they still practice that today? I was told that Like they don't charge interest to, in Israel, the Jewish people.
I don't know.
Save that this one next time.
For another reaction.
However, you may lend to a foreigner at interest. Don't delay in fulfilling your vow. Fulfill what you've uttered as a vow. So it does, the Torah does tell us to keep, if we make a vow, it says in here, you don't have to, if you don't make a vow, it's not held against you a sin. That's what the Torah actually says, right?
So don't make a vow.
But if you do make one,
If you do make one,
you better do it.
you've got to fulfill it. So the Torah isn't saying, the Shula isn't saying don't take a vow. He's saying, what the Torah says. The Torah says you don't have to take a vow, right?
Alright.
But if you fulfill your vow, you must keep it. Several, in the fifth aliyah here, are quote at the bottom. These are often understood in terms of a hired laborer allowed to eat of the produce while working from the vineyard or field. The text, I think, talks more about a neighbor's. I'm sorry. You can not. Walking through, you can pluck a couple of ears of grain, but you're not allowed to take your sickle and harvest his grain.
Harvest it, and take some home.
But you're not supposed to harvest his.
It's lunchtime, you can make a meal, but that's it.
Always keep going to the same place and eating his stuff. At Joe's Vineyard. 24, the Torah of marriage and the remarry your former wife whom you divorced, actually another man's wife.
I have known people who've done it.
Yeah, I think we all have. Next one is something that's definitely not practiced in the United States Army. You don't demand from a bridegroom any communal or military service or involvement
For 1 year.
for a year. Yep. The bridegroom shall devote himself for 1 year to rejoice with his wife. It's a mitzvah to rejoice with your wife after you're married.
Do they follow that today? In the military?
I don't know that's true, though. I don't know that they actually follow that or allow their men to take the time off. I don't know if they do or not, honestly. I know the U.S. Army doesn't follow that for sure. Don't take and pledge the means for preparing food, 24/6. That means the one shall not take as security a lower millstone or an upper millstone, for life would be taking as security. In other words, if you take a loan out and take as collateral his means of making grain or to making flour, you're essentially taking from him his livelihoods. You're not allowed to do that. You can't take from him his means of feeding himself.
Same with the cloak also, it says on
Yeah, yeah. Don't take his only clothing as well
there. Like take turn it for
for nightfall.
nightfall.
Does that mean you get it the next day?
Before
It
night.
doesn't say, it
Before
doesn't
nightfall.
specify.
Presumably you could, I suppose,
Hmm.
if he hasn't repaid it by then.
I guess back then, a lot of them, that's the only thing they had sleeping.
They didn't have their electric blanket.
There's a really shortage of electric blankets, I think, in those times. Don't fake not being a leper,
Oh.
or the term used here is don't remove the signs. Take care regarding they shall teach you the Kohanim and Levite. So it's understood the idea of taking care is what is understood, the commentary says it prohibits any attempt to cut away the physical symptoms of tzaraat.
I mean, like to pretend you did, if you weren't, you had it,
Right. For example, if you have some kind of a
because you were supposed to, like, you couldn't
right,
be,
you're trying to pass as clean, you're really
yeah.
not. Go into his house and say, okay, I'm taking, this as the pledge. Allow him to bring it out to you. You don't go in there and take it. So that's kind of a violation of his, because you go back to say this is castle doctrine, right? He's supposed to hit. It's his castle. You're not allowed to enter it, even to take a pledge from it. 2415 is really something that in the modern financial system is really never done today.
I know, I wish they knew.
The only place it's done
Japan.
is like if you're hiring migrant labor, right?
Day laborers.
Day labor.
So this sounds like I'm being self-serving. When I had my computer shops,
Mm-hmm.
I paid all my guys every day, 24 hours, every 24 hours, because of this.
Damn, that's great.
Yeah. Of course, they kind of pay it, it's in an account, so we can't.
But they're drawing interest on that until they pay it.
Well, and I always make sure my lawn guy, I pay for 4 weeks at a time, and I make sure that I pay day one
Yeah.
on my 4 weeks, so that,
Well, and a lot of versions doesn't say every day. It says pay them when you agreed to pay them.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so at the end of each week, it better be the end of each week. I think it should be this. I'm not for taking scripture and making something out of it.
yeah.
The 2419 is the kind of the Ruth story here, right? The don't glean all the sheaves left behind, allow stuff for the stranger, the orphan, and the widow, the ger, the orphan, and the widow.
But if you notice, the orphan and the widow have to go out and do something.
It's not brought to them.
No,
Have to collect it. Yeah.
So they had to actually put some skin in the game and go work.
They had to go collect it themselves. Yeah. So this Paul quotes this one: "Don't muzzle ox while it's treading." Next time we'll talk about Yabam and Chalitza. Yabam is levirate marriage. The duties of the brother to his sister-in-law. And Torah of Chalitza. Chalitza is the word remove, sandal remove. So if you go back a slide, don't marry a widow subject to Yabam unless until Chalitza is performed. So again, back to the Ruth story. I'm not going to marry her prior to her marriage. And that's the Chalitza removal, the one who refused to perform the right or the duty of the dead husband. Don't bear false weights and measures. I think equal weights and measures goes beyond just a financial thing. It can apply to other things in terms of concept. In other words, you can't. It's the idea of a double standard. You don't have a double standard. There's one standard. You hold to that standard. Don't more heavily someone else's views with the same weight of evidence and whatnot. And to blot out the seed of Amalek, and don't forget Amalek. The Torah, the Beautiful Captive, is from 21:10 through, I guess, 14. Verse 14, supposed to, in the event you lose interest in her, you're to let her go wherever she wishes. But you do not sell her for money or treat her as a slave because you took advantage of her, you humiliated her. The oral tradition talks about the reason for this. Why are Israelites allowed to marry captives? And they make a statement about food. It is better for the Israelites to eat the meat of beasts about to die, but properly slaughtered, than the meat of dying animals that have perished on their own without slaughter. So the idea here is that what comes naturally, you see women being raped and turned into sex slaves. That you can allow women to be married that you desire from the captive. So that the Israelites are allowed to mourning, but not to are married while their husbands are still alive. It calls them. You can take possession, or you can have sexual intercourse with those whom your right hand possesses, which is interpreted to mean those whom you have captured as your slaves. So you treat them as sex slaves and not as wives, whereas the Torah doesn't allow that.
God is giving protection.
He's giving protection for the woman, even if she becomes, even if she is divorced from her husband, she is still an Israelite now. She's become an Israelite because of marriage, and she's no longer a Moabite captive. And so she has a change of status.
It mentioned prison clothes, to take off the prison clothes. What would that be? What are prison clothes?
I would view that as something that's been given to them as basically something to cover themselves as a in the meantime, for whatever they were wearing when they were a Moabite. Now, I mean, you see prisoners wear different kind of clothing. Is
striped ones from a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, they still wore their military uniform, but oftentimes they're given some sort of clothing to identify them as prisoners. We see that, obviously in the prison system today, somebody wearing orange jumpsuits in the back, you can identify them as a prisoner. The Torah of the wayward has a stubborn, rebellious son who will not obey what his father and mother says, and even after he disciplines him, he still refuses to pay attention to them. His father and mother are place, and say to the leader of the town, the son of ours is stubborn and rebellious. He doesn't pay attention to us. He lives wildly, gets drunk. And all the men of the town are stoned to death in this way to put an end to such wickedness among you, and all Israel will hear about it and be afraid.
Okay, the question below is what my question was.
According to the sage of Israel, how often was this punishment carried out?
Never.
According to the sage of Israel, it was never carried out.
Really?
However, I know one instance where it kind of was. So, do not listen. He's not listening to a boy. He is a glutton and a drunkard. Hebrew text there says, Zolel v'soveh. Zolel v'soveh. Glutton and a drunkard. Well, that is exactly the accusation made against Yeshua. see in Leviticus 7, 34 and 35, behold, a gluttonous man and a drunkard. And when you look at the parallel passage to this in Matthew 19, the Hebrew text on the right in the red is what Dutele Hebrew reads. And there is an extended vowel, so to speak. There's a middle vav in the word vesove. There's a that tells us an O sound. You could also, just like there's often the vav would typically hold that function as well. And so a longer. So in Matthew 11:19, Yeshua is gluttonous man and a drunkard, or glutton and a drunkard. That's used in the Torah. So did the Pharisees consider themselves the elders? Yes. What might a glutton and drunkard, a glutton be to a Pharisee? What might a glutton be to a Pharisee? It means they didn't fast twice a week. Yeshua didn't die by stoning, but the verse right after this, if someone has committed a capital crime and he's put to death, then hung on a tree.
Death first.
He wasn't put to death first, that's true. He was hung on a tree. But so when you kind of connect these together, it seems to me that Yeshua was treated as if he was a rebellious son, a glutton and drunkard who was executed for those things by the elders. They didn't stone him, but they used a Roman method of execution that they could use and get away with. They hanging on him.
I was thinking about what they did to him when we were reading that earlier.
So Israel, the land will be cursed by it. And so Galatians 3 have become a curse for us. So about it.
It's just interesting to, I don't know, some of the mitzvot and just. I don't know, they're just fascinating that they're like God would care about the little things, like a
I love that verse.
yeah, and so there was just a lot. I just find it so interesting, all the different things. I don't know that there was anything that bothered me
Yeah.
at all on this one.
I wish our society followed more of it.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
I think that where our society has fallen short of I think particularly is the rape
Yeah.
thing. If rape was a capital offense more often, I think that there can be murder somebody and rape them both. Yeah. I didn't really in any of the readings. Perhaps you can say the larger one. In the our text that we read from Matthew. You can learn, I think, about the end times there. I mean,
Mhm.
a lot about that. We also learn about, it says that he will come when you don't expect him. So all of these predictions about timelines and things like that are kind of going against, you're going against Torah by making the prediction, right? Because none of those predictions to date have come true. And it's just basically, you are essentially become a false prophet and are leading people astray. Instead of making these predictions thinking you're building up your following, you build it up until it's not true, and then basically divide the people again. They're all become, many people I think have become hardened, yeah, because of constant date setting and prophet, and this even within our Messianic ranks as well. Let's see. Well, we can say what is text telling us to do? Well, there's 74 mitzvot, right? A lot of them we can't necessarily do today, but there's certainly some that can be walked out. Is there a way to summarize this text?
I think a lot of it is being fair to others. I mean, you're fair in the measurement, you're treating people fair when you have the captive wife.
Yeah.
You're treating others
Basically,
basically. They,
Even the
even the animals, you're being
animals
fair.
and even the female prisoners,
Yeah.
that's a way of showing mercy and providing for them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, their husbands were killed, they're on their own now, they have no way to make a living, get food.
Right. They're basically ostracized from the rest of society. Otherwise, yeah.
Or prostitute.
Or prostitute. Yeah.